Alright, good morning, folks. Everything new under the sun. Coming at you with another World War III video, and this is about bunkers in the US. I thought this was kind of interesting. We're not only going to take a look at this, which is a more conspiratorial article, but also look at a couple of articles, just about, at least one anyways, about what the US is doing with bunkers right now, at least as it's reported by the mainstream media, so you never know exactly what's true. But this one is about, this is a Zero Hedge article, is the government building secret tunnels under America to prepare for World War III? And interestingly, they've connected this to the mysterious sounds and noises and booms that people have heard, which is always, to me, it's an interesting phenomenon, and I haven't, I still wonder if it's true or not. You watch these videos, you never know, are these hoax videos, or are people just doing the copycat thing with the, the sounds, and you never know. It's interesting nonetheless. You also got to understand that the U.S. may indeed be building bunkers, or at least refurbishing old ones, and you got to expect that, especially with North Korea, who now has deliverable nuclear weapons and preparing for EMP, electromagnetic pulse weapons on the U.S. Every country in the world knows that the easiest way to take down a first world nation, a superpower, or any first world nation, is to use an EMP, because those first world nations are based primarily on technology. If you take out the technology, you blast them into the Stone Age effectively, and that is the worst thing to happen. Not a nuclear weapon on the ground, and not invading a country. All you need to do is take out their electronics, and the whole country, the whole civilization, grinds to a halt. If you have an EMP blast, you don't have modern cars working on the road, because they're all controlled by computer. They're all controlled by electronics. It takes out and overwhelms the electronics in vehicles. That means there's no food transportation. There's no food getting to grocery stores. So grocery stores have about, I think it's 3 days worth of food on shelves, because it's a sort of an on-demand delivery system. You take out transportation, and food gets eaten up in probably less than 3 days, because people will panic and start hoarding stuff. This is a whole conversation I guess I could get into. Let's get to the article here. Mysterious booms and strange lights have been reported all over the country, and have recently sparked fears that the United States government is building tunnels underground in preparation for a potential nuclear Third World War. This is from shtfplan.com, but it's reposted on Zero Hedge. Residents are convinced that they are hearing sounds and seeing odd lights, and these are not isolated events. One man in Cincinnati area caught the lights on his camera, and was even able to capture his son's reactions. I don't know if we can play this or not. This is a YouTube video. Probably get a copyright strike or something. Let's see if this, just see if this comes up here. From my porch cam. The sun's reaction to the lights. You can see he got up in relation to do that. That almost looked like a fireball. So that's interesting. You can go to the article and check it out. There's the lights going on, flashes of lights coming from something. Again, it's interesting. You never know if these are true or not. Kimberly Kemke, a concerned citizen resident from Anderson Township in Cincinnati, Ohio, is convinced the sounds she heard earlier this week are more than fireworks. The sounds were like true booms. They sounded like a powerful explosion. It's unlike anything I've ever seen or felt before, and I've been very up close with fireworks many times. I think in the last days we're going to hear some mysterious booms. We're going to hear some incredible things and see some incredible sights as the demons come out of the abyss, the bottomless pit in the earth, and as the earth cracks up from all the volcanoes, all the volcano action. I think we're going to start seeing that, and it's going to become more overt to the point where we can't deny them anymore, and all of us are experiencing them. These are all part of the last days groanings of the earth, and these are part of the revelation events with the demons, the locusts coming out of the earth. These are all things that are going to increase in intensity and frequency as we get to the last days. Not get to the last days, we're in the last days, as we get to kind of the ending, the last few seconds of the history of the earth. It goes on, according to Daily Star, YouTube channel Secure Team 10, run by Tyler Glockner, claims that the unexplainable sounds are coming from underground. So this is where they get into the idea that maybe there are tunnels in the ground. He also revealed just days ago a seismograph recorded something moving from the east to the west coast of the U.S. in just 19 seconds. What could that be? A shockwave or something? And since he has uploaded it, viewers have been quick to speculate that something is secretly going on below the surface. I won't play that. You can play this one on this article. I'll put the link in the description below. Only last month, mystery trumpet sounds in New York had residents convinced a secret tunneling program had commenced. So there's lots of people talking about tunneling programs. And before that, we saw similar scenes in Ohio. The odd booms have been heard in Pennsylvania too, triggered an FBI investigation. The booms seem to be returning en masse. Most sound metallic in nature, almost as if a giant machine is doing something, or a large piece of sheet metal is being hammered. Listen to them all yourself and see what you think. Is the government building secret shelters underground to protect the elites in preparation for World War III? Now, this is a rumor that's been going around for, I think, many years now. The whole tunneling. Paul Begley just did a recent video on it, etc. I wanted to take a look at what the mainstream media had out there for what the government was actually doing, or at least what out in the public as doing. This is from the NewYorkPost.com. This is where the government will hide during a nuclear war. Let me just get the date on this article. It probably doesn't matter particularly. The date. This is from June 2017, so from last year. Maybe doomsday preppers aren't crazy after all, as nuclear threat looms from countries like Iran and North Korea. These are things that were happening last year, and we have the exact same concerns, so this could effectively be a 2018 article. The U.S. is knocking the dust off decades-old bunkers intended to protect government officials and even start a new civilization in the case such a nightmare event occurred. Journalist Graf takes readers through the 60-year history of the government's secret doomsday bunkers and plans to survive nuclear war in his painstakingly researched book, Raven Rock. He focuses on Cold War-era bunkers across the country that were built to house the president and various Washington elites, members of so-called shadow government, in the worst nuclear Armageddon scenario. Again, I think the most likely thing is an EMP. That's the easiest type of weapon to deploy and explode over parts of the United States. It's the easiest to produce, I would think, and it is the one that has the most damage on the most number of people. You can have a conventional explosion, a nuclear explosion, and it takes out maybe even a whole city, but ultimately that city's gone. The rest of the country is still up and running. If you have an EMP blast done at, I forget what it is, 10 kilometers in the air, 15 kilometers in the air, whatever it ends up being, whatever the optimal height is, you effectively have the ability to take out the neural networks, the electricity of the whole country, and affect the whole power grid, even across North America, because the United States and Canada are connected and would be affected by this. And you'd have supply chains just taken completely out of the picture. So I think an EMP is by far the best way to get the maximum amount of damage to North America, basically. This is from BGR.com. The U.S. government is rebuilding a bunch of Cold War bunkers, and can you really blame it? The U.S. government continuity plan for the Cold Wars was to build a bunch of underground bunkers to protect the U.S. Key U.S. government people from nuclear war. Once the U.S. stopped the contest with the USSR, the Cold War contest, the government put the bulk of the facilities on standby with skeleton crew. The The New York Times Post has taken a look at the government's stock of secret and underground fallback facilities, and that's referring back to the Raven Rock military book that covers this. So just a couple of articles basically there. So they're refurbishing old technologies, old bunkers, and again, the idea that they're building tunnels is interesting to me. Again, it's kind of like the mysterious booms. It's hard to understand, if it's a reality or not. Is it pure conspiracy? Is it something they could be doing? Certainly they could be doing it. Or maybe they're just building subways as well. Maybe they're just drilling subways. To me, it doesn't make sense that they could actually dig tunnels across the country. I mean, that would take, I imagine, not just billions, but probably trillions of dollars to do. And it would be out there so much, it would be public knowledge if they were building networks of underground tunneling across the country. That just seems to me like something a government couldn't do without it just being out, in public common knowledge and overt, and kind of being mainstream media news. But you can't assume anything. You just gotta wait and see. But it's kind of one of those things that's interesting. And like I say, these guys are including it, rolling it into all the strange sounds phenomena, which is a whole interesting thing. And I mean, when I hear these sounds, I mean, the hair stands up on the back of my head. It's pretty interesting. And I think we're going to hear even more frightening and see even more frightening things the closer we get to the end of the history of man on earth, as we get into the Revelation seals and the plagues and these things coming down the pipe. And I think we're close. I think we're only 10 years away from the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. I think we're only probably 3 years, plus or minus a year or two, so it could even be closer to the start of the 7-year tribulation. And things are winding up. I think the next big event for North America is for U.S., the world superpower currently, to be taken out of the picture, because they're not mentioned in Ezekiel 38 as being a country that comes to the aid of Israel. In fact, no countries come to the aid of Israel in that Ezekiel 38 Gog-Magog war. And you would think if the U.S. existed as a superpower at that time, that they would come to the aid. But all you see is countries, the young lions of Tarshish, saying, "Have you come to take a spoil?" And indeed, Russia is looking for oil. You take the SP off spoil and you get oil. And Russia is heading down there. They've got boats in the Mediterranean. They've got troops on the ground. They've got air defense radar systems in Syria. They've got all their military equipment. They're ready to invade Israel as soon as basically, I guess Iran asked them to. As the Allies are getting ready to march on Israel. We are that close. All we need now is the destruction of Damascus to occur, which that could be the kind of the big hook in the jaw to pull Russia in, and the removal of the United States as a superpower. Something happens to them. I don't think it's a nuclear weapon. It could be an EMP blast, which triggers an economic collapse. It could just be an economic collapse triggered by maybe China or Russia or Saudi Arabia selling all U.S. dollars and basically crashing the U.S. dollar. That could happen as well. Something takes them out from being a world power, and it's something that's immediate and quick, and happens in a short period of time. Something to take a look at, something to be prepared for. You need to be prepared, because it's not stated in the Bible when the rapture is going to occur exactly. It's not even clear among good scholars whether it's a pre-tribulation rapture, whether it's a post-trib, pre-wrath rapture. There's a lot of good evidence for that too. You need to be prepared. Ultimately, all that we know is we can secure our salvation by accepting the free gift of salvation through Jesus Christ. Call upon Him to come into our hearts. Holy Spirit, come into our hearts and save us from our sin. And that way we know ultimately, no matter what happens, how we die, when we die, or if we get raptured, we know we'll be with Jesus in heaven at that time, whether there's a pre-trib rapture or not. All these events, I think, are leading to the last days events, the end time events, and those things are coming upon us quickly. The earth is groaning. Maybe that's where some of these sounds are coming from. You look at the situation in Hawaii with the lava flows. Incredible days that we're living in. And so thanks for watching, guys. I'll leave it there. I'll put the links in the description. You need to be prepared. You need to be prepared with food, with water, and have your heart right with Jesus Christ, because He's coming back soon.